Good morning, my dear third year students. How are you? I miss you so much. You know, I love your lectures a lot, so we have to proceed using this sort of online lectures. Inshallah, I hope we meet very soon. Now we are moving to the next section in our criticism course, the romanticism. So, in short, you have to remember that we are doing or approaching two different theories or schools of literature, the neoclassicism and the romanticism. So please remember that we are studying two different literary theories. Remember, neoclassicism, new edition of the classicism, focuses on teaching and some moral and the reformation of the society. So the society is at the center of the works of art. It's the main subject, it's the main topic of literature, and human feelings and man at the margin. Both, of course, this is in both classicism and neoclassicism. Now we are moving to the Romanticism, where the case is completely upside down. The society moved to the margin, and the human feelings and man is at the center or in the core of works of art. Please remember that we studied the Romanticism during the first semester, and we are not going to go in so much details regarding the parts or the sides or points that we are finished, so not to repeat ourselves. So in this page you will find the main components of the coming section and the objectives of this section. Of course, you remember who is William Wordsworth, and of course, he is one of the pioneer of the Romanticism. Actually, his theories or his works focuses on only his works focus on the definition of poetry, the theory of diction, the characteristics of poet, and so on. And you will find this in your papers or your materials. So please also remember that on this page you have also the characteristics of the romanticism in English, including the imagination, the importance of nature, the sublime, the reaction against neoclassicism, the melancholy, nihilism, supernaturalism, subjectivity, and so on. But what we want to care more about, the rule of Samuel Coleridge. Of course, we didn't finish Samuel Coleridge through our course in the first semester, so we are going to focus on Samuel Coleridge this semester. Regarding this part of William Wordsworth, there is no need to study this part thoroughly, because you know this part through the or from the first semester. So let's pause this, and there is no need to study this for the end of term examination, but please remember the role of William Wordsworth throughout the romanticism, the era of romanticism. Now let's move to the Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Of course, remember, in Samuel Taylor Coleridge and William Wordsworth, they represent the work or they lay the foundation of romanticism. In the first page here, you will find the briefly or the biographically speaking about Samuel Taylor Coleridge. But please, let's move this part to this point. This is very important. Please underline: Coleridge coined, in addition of course to his role in laying or establishing the romanticism with William Wordsworth, he coined many familiar words or phrases, including the suspicion of disbeliefs, He had a major influence on Ralph Waldo Emerson and on the American Transcendentalism. And of course, I love giving you many questions, so expect this is in the end of term examination as writing short notes on. Number one, the term suspension of disbeliefs or willing suspicion of disbelief has been defined as underlying the willingness to suspend one's critical faculties and believe something surreal, sacrifice of realism and logic for the sake of enjoyment. Again, what about the surrealism? It's a cultural movement that began in the early 1920s and is the best known for its visual artwork and writing. Artists paint unerring, illogical scenes which photographic precision created strange creatures from everyday objects, and this developed painting and techniques. What does this mean? For example, something looks like this image where you feel that in this part this looks like as if there is a bridge in the sea, but when you focus more or concentrate more on this image you find there are many ships. Okay, so this is the surrealism. What about the Transcendentalism, an idealistic, philosophical, and social movement which developed in the New England around 1836 in reaction to rationalism? Influenced by Romanticism, Platonism, and Kantian philosophy, it taught that divinity pervades all the nature and humanity, and its members held progressive views on feminism and communal living. But about the Kantian philosophy is a system developed by Immanuel Kant based underlying in the idea in order to understand the idea of nature of reality, one must examine, underline, and analyze the reasoning process which governs the nature experience. So, of course, this is could be included in the short notes questions. The main work of art or Coleridge's masterpiece is actually Biographia Literaria. Biographia Literaria is unlike that work of William Wordsworth of Romanticism. Coleridge's Biographia Literaria is written in a sort of underlying autobiographical novel framed as a nonlinear meditative discourse. It originated as an intended preface to a volume of poetry underline. So these are the characteristics or how or the form of his work of art, Biographia Literaria. What about the themes or the main topics of this work of art? So please here on papers write the themes or the thematic elements of his poetry. The book addresses underline the thematic elements of poetry such as subscenes as well as the elements of poet himself. I'm sorry, suspense as well as the elements of the poet himself, including decomposition of the meaning of creativity informed by his knowledge. Underline. Okay. Coleridge begins the work with underlying meditation. This is how his autobiography novel, Biographia Literaria, begins in the sort of meditation. Meditation of what? Formative years and schooling. This time formed the basis for his poem The Frost at the Midnight, which reflects on his time, the formal educational underline. This is about the background of his work, Biography Literaria, formal educational environment that he believes during or he believes that could be represented in this work of art. Okay. He also repeats and represents the predominant themes of the Romantic movement, especially that early period of the Romanticism, where in this second point, this page, you find out that themes of the early English Romantic movement, positioning the entity of underline and make a circle nature as the child's teacher who functions in the symmetric relations with human spirit. So nature is the surrounding, is the most important element in the Romanticism. And I know you do remember what we have studied throughout the first semester when we analyzed William Wordsworth's Ternate, where we referred to so a lot of elements throughout prevailed, elements prevailed throughout the poem. Okay, anyway, let's go back here. The child teacher who functions in the symmetrical relationship with the human spirit. He also calls for the freedom, underlying freedom of the spirit. This is the significant or the insignificant error of the significant error or the sorry the significant element of his work. Coleridge also moves to in his work to introduce his critical theory of underlying language to reflection on the evaluation of his philosophical doctrine. He states that he initially adhered to the associational psychology of David Hartley. Anyway, you can pause this point and let's move. He rejects this beliefs of the he rejects this belief and rejects the main principles of the neoclassicism as well as the classicism of reaching and receiving certain ideas and importing certain ideas from another different era or another different theory or another different civilization. He insists and asserts on the importance of man's mind. Underline, mind is not a mechanical receptacle for ideas that are already out of the world. Rather, underline, mind is an active agent in the perception. It's not a passive, it's not copy and paste, it's not a matter of process of copy and paste. Because reality emerges out of the discourse with nature. Reality emerge from where nature is the source of everything. It's the godfather for romanticism. Coleridge comes close to a conclusion that reality is in some sense it's constructed. Then we moved to imagination. Why we highlight the importance of imagination according to Coleridge, and why Coleridge cares a lot about imagination till he wrote a poem trying to define what is the meaning of imagination and the different aspects of imagination. Of course, because imagination is one of the most important aspects in romanticism. Let's see. Coleridge defines imagination as a simplistic power. O Adam, one Almighty is from whom all things processed and up to him return, if not depraved from good, created all such a perfection one first nature is. Again, the imagination I consider underline either as a primary, underline this is very important, secondary, primary imagination action I hold to be living, underline living power and the prime agent of all human perception. This is of course from Biographia Literaria. This is a quotation. Please, and I know you will ask me, shall we include this in our questions and our essays? Yes, please, you should include part, especially this second stanza or this second part in your question. What is the question here? We can write, please write a question here starting from this point. Discuss how Coleridge defines imagination. Okay, let's go on. In the first part of this quotation, Coleridge says the imagination is a simplistic power. What's the meaning of implastic power and why Coleridge uses this phrase? Okay. The implastic power underlying is means through which the human soul is able to perceive the universe in its raw form. Underlying this refers to how man understands and visualize or understand the surroundings of his world as raw material. There is no manipulation. This is the pure nature that they can understand. He distinguishes the universe's spiritual unity underlying as the only ultimate object to be perceived, asserting the importance of objects underlying. Objects can be categorized as fancy or the products of other associative functions of human mind. Okay, let's stop at this point. I wish to see you soon. Thank you very much.